dear Speaker Pelosi, dear President Trump, dear parties, to help you guys, I can demonstrate since before President Trump was born, since before President Obama was born, before any of us were born, before our founders were born, something using the identity of the ground and fact treatment nature's roles with it, styles, was in a crime, organized crime, breaching organized crime method using human fact treatment nature that knew that once formal roles with that, defended that, they would be stayed live progressions. Inside negative value needs progression roles, self-valued, blamed on other things, others, and selves. Needing to hide live progressions also, therefore, from their roles with every formal fact treatment nature, not realizing themselves as victim predators, including and especially regarding Native Americans, tribes A through Z. If there is, A1 through Z7, say. The truth is native. One nature of the truth is native pure and as exception nature at the same time, which is value here, where we're invisible but discernible, is the original and the only stayed the only nature and method of science that's going to cause positive value nature progressions, acts, and natures, and its fruits and gifts, or it's going to cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures as the nature of positive self-value. There's a nature of positive valued with psychology, with a whole bunch of nations, with that juxtaposed with natures of criminal justice here and there. Sick, fake difference. Germany and America is sick, fake difference. You can't entertain roles with psychology, their physical delusions, and uses by logic with the course of it, entertaining convictions and styles with this fact treatment nature as criminal and seditious nature that never had the right to be legalized. They could never stand formally. Not one formal position of modern nations could stand simultaneous voice to the voice to the simultaneous nature that it is sequence true, the order to the active to the inherent, as the order to the finite with that, as that, now as the order to the active with as that, which is our in our progressive value. You see, what built people stacking in New York City was not without roles with slavery that were never unhinged, because, for example, it's a truth, it's a fact that the Civil War ended. It ended slavery one way on paper, but didn't end slavery. The sub rows of the statutes, the relationships to the tactically denatured native landscape, which is a relation was built to cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. It was designed for that. That's what's actually recorded. But before we have calm speech, we have offensive evidence fabrication racketeering roles. And this is also with a method that begins in grammar school, uses of everyone originally and still having self-valued that, and how we have so many overt criminal enterprises and private and interbranch, intercampuses, everything, all categorically not in collusion, realizing how, but by uses of the fact treatment nature, that organized crime method that already built the identity of the ground, all relationships to it, needing to hide the same offensive life progressions already in layers, as by offensive being interbranch and collusion here and there. Modern nations, the same things. So if they try to admit it, they're going to get punished, because at the Trade Center attack level, I mean, at the Trade Center, that too, but at the Trade Center value treatments level, where we have former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, involved with other agencies with racketeering right through administrations, right through the Obama administrations, Worse than criminal competence, racketeering rolls with uses of color, with all natures of corruption with that. See, that involves his roles with a whole bunch of nations involved with psychology. This involves a whole bunch of natures of racketeering with failure to account for details and to defend details by the Marines, because that and how they were left criminally foreign influenced originally and still breaching screens and breaching schools. There and here, modern nations. So rather than have we have grammar school broken logic that never went away at the top levels. All we need to demonstrate we have nuclear weapons because they're psycho. There's negative value nature progression tied to zoning laws from here to Russia. Recorded criminally foreign influence self-valued, not by accident, in layers of motivations, needs, interests, all victims, but all victim predators of this organized crime method. They are also still originally and still preventing free speech to tell our American history. Free speech to allow calm civil defense of the first part of the Old Testament. Free speech to prevent calm civil defense of the first part of the Quran. Here, there. ISIS is in collusion with what is internations. How many nations have psychology racketeering with drugs? They pretend people have mental diagnosis, but mental problems too. Like, and then they force drugs on them, especially with prisons and things like that. Also recorded involved with crimes with their patients and criminals before they're in there, the sickest people. Forcing that not told on because these are wire crime rackets, racketeering roles with databases. With uses of each age of fact, human nature's correlation. This is a sophistication that I'm bringing you back to that our founders had never had legal help because they didn't have state scenarios anything but already self-valued in layers. Again, motivations, nature, needs, interest, and value nature system as the slavery. But to see as worse than slavery. People say, how could it be worse than slavery? Because you have to, this is to show all that was sustained with slavery, like racketeering, torture, you have to show what is even more than it. How? That's how. By the organized crime method using fact cheating nature style. Now you could tell that someone if they're going to say that there's a witch trial, or if there's someone because their color is different, they're going to have a different rights. You're that person's whoever's saying that is lying to themselves and to others, but also as a criminal insidious nature. Also as temporary positive though, so they're going to have a different nature of logic, and it's that is involved with the nature of methods of torture. And we have people too, also with real mental health problems. And so we have the phrases mental health. So these are fact cheating nature racketeering. Natures and methods and motivations for roles with identity theft, identity racketeering. To pretend not to like people, for example, in the backgrounds on a mass scale so they can pretend, imply things. Imply not realizing their roles with database organized crime. Now, this also kept and keeps the sophistication. They only let realized natures of it that do really obviously need to react to the real causes of negative value nature progressions acts like predicate acts without state scenarios. Roles with mass criminal insidiousness natures of positive quality of fact cheating nature, fake middle, trinity, delusions, trinity, criminally foreign influenced fake sides. Whole bunch of people all made it must be somewhere in between there. That is consciously maintained per this method that is off the ground education is recorded consciously, effectively, methodically on off campuses and layers. Now, before they let people to explain this, these are people also, whole bunch of nations recorded with crime methods using mental diagnosis where they have people pretending, or if people have conspiracy theories, they have this mental diagnosis. That's one of the symptoms, in other words. But they're also forging names, switching names for symptoms. They also have statutes that they use criminally that says they can just look real quick because they're a doctor and tell if someone's needing to be drugged or something because they have, they have that used for fact cheating. Then because then they have statutes because then their people are gonna try to say, well, this person's psycho. But see, those people to do that, they're sweet sequence shifting, preventing from being demonstrated what is actually recorded, which is racketeering with the FBI and with a whole bunch of other nations maintaining this the outcome, racketeering with the CIA and with a whole bunch of nations maintaining this outcome for uses of identity with fact cheating nature. If you're lying about what happened as a judge when bad things happen with campuses because you had prosecutors associated with it, you have needs to defend positive because if you don't, other nations, hundreds of nations, are with value nature position, all kinds of sanctions penalties for everyone not having integrity, for not being real positive. See, but not one is positive at the same time because a fake side originally and still is to the maintenance of extortion originally worse than entertained, already entrenched, worse than negotiated with. That is to the soul of what is patriotism, criminally foreign influenced. All its rules, all its attention to details were never followed. They're criminally foreign influenced. They're involved with racketeering, again, using the identities of a location, using how these sick parties, oh, that's impeachable, that's that. These are racketeering. See, these are victims, though. These are victims, though. And see, these are women forsaken that just want to play rough like the men. The men are sick fakes. They can't follow their sequence shifting, racketeering nature's roles with the girls. That not for each age, depending nothing on sexual, but for their needs to keep each age of fact keeping nature hurt in relationship to their needs to hide life progressions because they're racketeering roles with this other method of crime that all these other ones are motivated through. Santa Claus is about this. St. Nicholas is about this. This is about racketeering, recorded how maintained, facilitated in the departments of campuses, standing victim predators as originally and still left standing natural volume as criminal and ceaseless nature pseudo positive. So you're going to be victims of off campuses maintained, sustained influences already self-valued. Theater to that's what that job does. We don't think. They tell us to break the law, we break the law. They have the right to break the law. That's true. But they don't have the right to sequence shift. They don't have the right to hide vertical and horizontal identity thefts against anyone who's not already inclusion with what is the strain since before our founders' birth. That is also to the uses of their forced soul stolen identities to a great extent. What do you think left even after World War I and II? All kinds of sick mental health care racketeering that even healthcare was with. All that money, instead of having it for real healthcare, we had what was involved with mostly with the furtherance of overt criminal enterprises, recorded uses of their individual criminal and serious natures, recorded how kept needing to hide the same finite, active, progressive lies together, recorded how also with the undercover, how this is completely fact cheating nature racketeering, like with color, was used to keep the fact cheating nature from the quality being able to counter what is completely fact cheating nature organized crime. That made all these other natures of what is indefensible by correlation nature self-valued by all. It's a perfect world forsaken, not by accident. roles to the maintenance of a criminally foreign influenced infrastructure never liberated are set forth. They have they have phrases like they have concepts like what is it called? Those things. They pretend that there's groups and stuff like that. They maintain motivations of those people in collusion with psychology. Whole bunch of nations that hate each other, racketeering roles with as leaders of their agencies with who are doctors of psychology. Roles with a whole bunch of database racketeering, not by accident. Perfected since before our nation founders' births. Databases were used before with this ancient republic, before computers. There are proofs the ancients had magnifying glasses, even. However, I mean, and, you know, maybe by microscopes. They had concentrated value, the mass industry. Their value and their value system is the identity that all things share at once. They have an identity of relationship to themselves at once. That and the value of that is the difference between what causes positive or negative value nature progressions, which is where and how our complete each individual's complete identity is simultaneously an unceasing semi-nature relationship to this identity's identity of relationship to itself. That where and how and why we are a species, individual, grouped, and together bonded. Trinity. This trinity has a value/value nature relationship to itself, which is values nature, complete, the complete nature of volume of it, its identity, the one that is the identity of forever and of space simultaneously, distinctly and non-distinctly, and simultaneously. And as what is each of those three semi-natures as the same one. We could also discern how before and after this, which is 3 and 5. Not just 3, 5, some physical delusion, not just critical and diacritical. It's critical as the identity of what is quadricritical, for example, as the Trinity. Well, example, in other words, the Trinity has an effect. The part we could affect is a semi-nature effect onto 4. And then that is a complete nature of effect relationship, completion of the value of 4, which is either negative, so it's still negative value nature 3. Its identity doesn't go away. It only everything is only filling volume. The one that this now the identity nature. Physical nature is different, but physical nature is bonded by the identity nature. It's the first nature of 0. And then life that is not us. The first nature of 0 is forever. Second one is space. And the third one is the identity that are together by one identity that is 3 complete natures of possession over the identity of forever, space, and itself, distinctly and non-distinctly. And this is as the identity that is increasing as in the nature of volume, which I believe the ancients revealed yin yang as a semi-section of, a transverse section of, which we are. We're not the complete identity of positive. but its complete identity and its complete identity of relationship to itself is inseparable from us and from it as the identity of our value. That's why we also need, this, what we have to discern is all way. This is science actual. This leads the Campus Martius, the Legion, native pure.